Today I'm going to speculate how to make a real-life tactical formal suit, just like our spy would wear in a black tie event. This came from the fact that in John Wick 2, John Wick suits up in Italy, and his suit, which he asks for to be custom made by the underground dealer, has been lined with a type of bulletproof casing to protect his body from getting shot at. So I thought, what would a real life suit look like? Number one, the head. You can't wear any safety coverings like helmets or face shields to protect against bullets or knife attacks because that looks too weird at like a dinner party. However, you could keep some safety by having short hair so they can't grab onto the hair, having no facial hair so that there's a lesser chance of follicles falling out, having a natural colored hair so you won't be easily identified from the rest of the group. Now going down to the neck, no necklaces because it's a choking hazard. Same with no real ties. If a tie is necessary, then use a clip-on. Much safer and there's no noose hanging around your neck. And now the trunk of the body, which is the chest and the stomach, underneath all of it, you want to wear a thin Kevlar vest. And it won't stop all types of rounds, especially powerful sniper rounds or machine gun rounds, but that's harder to sneak into a party than a small handgun. However, depending on the type that is chosen, it may not stop all handguns that have varying powers. So some of the more powerful revolvers can go through it just like a normal t-shirt, but it's better to have some safety over nothing. And over the vest, you want to wear a dark colored dress shirt. The reason for the dark coloring is to hide the bulletproof vest, and if you wear white, it can be seen more easily. And it should be a stretch shirt to allow more mobility than a normal dress shirt can provide. In fact, the whole suit itself, including the jacket and the pants, should be made of a stretch material so it's easier for you to fight. Now for the arms, you want to have forearm guards to protect against knife attacks and blunt hits to the body. So you can use it as like a shield, and the other arm with the weapon, so it's kind of like an old school Roman soldier fighting. Going towards the hands and the wrist, you don't want to wear any jewelry like rings, but you do want to have a watch. This is so you can have, along with the correct time, that's not based off of a phone, you can also have a compass and maybe even a garrote, which is a thin metal wire used to murder people with. And being a spy or assassin, that can come in handy. And an important thing to remember is that the suit itself should not be too form-fitting or it'll show out the forearm guards and anything else you're hiding. So it should be form-fitting enough, it doesn't have any slack, but not too tight that it restricts movement and shows off any weapons you may or may not be hiding. Going down to the waist, you want to have a utility belt like Batman, but not yellow, instead of black, so it blends into the formal setting and the formal suit. And you want it to be relatively thin, so that it doesn't protrude out and become visible to the people around you, arousing suspicion. Alternatively, you can use a belt sword instead if it requires you don't need as much material. And a belt sword is a type of Asian weapon, I believe, that's very flexible but sharp. It does require some knowledge and skill, but it could be a very effective mid-range to long-range melee weapon that can definitely put your opponent off guard. Below that, you want to wear an athletic cup like an athlete would. It's an easy target and everybody knows about it, so might as well protect it so you're not compromised by a simple mistake. Below that is an optional, but it could be a nice addition depending on what's happening, are shin guards, like used in soccer, but maybe a little thinner. This is obviously for hits to the leg that could occur, or if you're going to kick the opponent, which I don't recommend unless you're going towards the legs. Anything above that is kind of high risk, high reward, because it can be caught, you can be off balance, and you can fall and hit your head. But if you are going for the legs, this will really hurt the calf muscles and the knee joint, because it's a hard metal or a hard plastic depending on what you get. Okay, going towards the shoes, you want to wear dress shoes obviously to blend in, but you want a hybrid with rubber soles. This is so that you don't slip and fall down if you're fighting somebody or in an uneven terrain or a slippery terrain or it's raining outside. Rubber soles provide more grip in those type of environments than a normal dress shoe would. You want to put in some gel inserts so that you're more comfortable while running at high speeds or for long distances. Now let's talk about the tools that you may require during this formal event. And depending on the scenario that you're going for, Let's say you're trying to steal something without leaving fingerprints, you may want to have some gloves. If you're tracing somebody, you may want to have a GPS tracking device. And as the mission changes, so does the tools. But for a general tactical fight type environment, you want to have 2 handguns. Small enough so that they're easily hidden, but powerful enough to incapacitate or kill the opponent. Now I'm going to say the Walther PPK with a 32 ACP because that is what Sterling Archer from the show Archer uses. I believe that's also what James Bond uses, but don't count me on that. They're small enough to be easily hidden in the breast pocket or in the underwear depending on the scenario at hand. You also want to carry a couple of magazines either in the breast pockets of the suit or on the utility belt so that you're prepared to fight off against multiple assailants if need be. For the placement of the weapon itself is up to you. It's usually seen in movies and cartoons and TV shows that it wears one on the hip and the other one maybe on the leg, or you could go for one on the hip and one in the underwear like I said before. But what's important is to have it as concealed as possible but relatively easy access for at least one of the weapons. So you can do the hip one due to its easy access and have a product that they definitely sell on the internet somewhere which has a concealed carry type of pouch which you pull up and then grab the weapon. A little slower than normally, but again it gives you some stealth. Now you also want to have 2 knives. One knife should be a switchblade, that's for more stealthy motions so you can hide it in the palm of your hand or keep it in your breast pockets for easy access. It shouldn't be for straight up fights but for sneak attacks, which is why it should be around 4 to 5 inches, maybe a little smaller. It should be spring loaded. The other knife should have a fixed blade. It should be maybe 6 inches or longer, like a car bar. In a knife fight, you would use the forearm guard of the front hand as a makeshift shield, though again it won't defend as well as a real shield, so there's a lot of dangers, but it'll obviously reduce it. The other arm would hold the 6+ inch knife that you can use for stabbing and slashing. Besides weapons, you also want to have items that help you with the specific mission, like I said before. In general, you want to have a basic medical kit, a couple of bandages, some gauze, neosporin, and some super glue for bigger cuts, and some painkillers depending on how bad the wound or injury could be. You also want some lockpicks so you can enter locked areas, along with a skeleton key or a bump key for that specific region so you can break into houses that may contain information on the mission. And you want to have some handcuff keys so in case you are captured, you can use this to escape. And if it's a handcuff key, you want to place it closer to the neck so you can grab it even if your hands are tied. You may also want to keep a razor blade near your collar in case you're tied up by rope or you're in a car that's sinking, really for a situation where you cannot access your knives and need to escape quickly. You also want to have 2 cell phones, one a smartphone with a new SIM card and the location service is off. Don't do any nefarious deeds on this, but to blend into high societal areas, you're gonna have to have a nice phone. You can't pull out a track phone or a flip phone for this. Now you also want to have a real burner phone, which should be a cheap track phone or a flip phone that has no GPS or Wi-Fi capabilities. It makes it harder to track that phone than a normal cell phone. Don't carry any real identification cards with you that tell you your real name, where you really live, and what agency you may work for. If you have a fake one, use that instead. It has a different name and some other race or whatever, like a passport, a local driver's license, etc., etc. Favor cash over credit cards and debit cards, as it's harder to track real money than digitalized money. But if it requires a card of some sort, use a gift card and pay cash for it, and then throw it away once you're done with it. This is a relatively simple build for this character that I imagined, but you can always add more things. Again, as the mission changes and requires more things, you can take a couple things out, like weapons if you don't need it, or you can add more weapons if you do need it, or add more fingerprint analysis stuff and for DNA testing, and etc., etc.